The basic elements of music, lesson 37, we're going to talk about the minor scales. Presented by SARAHTIM Music Publishing. We're pretty far along in our journey, lesson 37. And quick review, whole steps and half steps, because these are essential to determining major and minor scales. Whole step is 3 adjacent notes. C to D flat to D, that's 1, 2, 3. 3 actual keys on the piano. That's a whole step. Half step are 2 adjacent notes. So we have C to D flat, that's 1, 2, and that's a half step. There are 3 forms of minor: natural, melodic, and harmonic. We will start with the natural minor, which has a specific pattern. And that pattern is a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, and whole step. Okay, so let's build a natural minor scale starting with D. So we go D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and D. So first off, we have to have a whole step between D and E. And that works because we have D, E flat, and E. Next, we need a half step, E to F, and that works because E to F is just a half step, only 2 adjacent keys. F to G, that's 3 keys, F, F sharp, and G. G to A, a whole step, G, A flat to A, that works. Now we need a half step between A and B. But looking at the picture here, we have A, B flat, and B, so that's 3 keys. We need to make it only 2. So we're going to lower the B to a B flat, so it's only A to B flat, 2 adjacent keys. Now we can't use an A sharp because that would put A sharp too far away from G and be larger than a whole step. So we're going to use a flat to bring the B down to B flat. And by doing that gives us the whole step already, B flat, B to C, so that lines up, and C to D, our last 2 notes, C, D flat, and D, 3 keys. So that works out well. So now we have our D minor scale, which would sound like this. That's our D minor scale, which is a contrast to D major. So here's the bright sound. Okay, that's a bright sound. And D minor is a darker sound. Let's build another minor scale, but this time let's start on F. So we need a whole step between F and G. So F, F sharp, G, that works, so a whole step. Now we need a half step, G, A flat to A. That's a whole step, so we've got to fix that. We're going to bring the A down to A flat. And so G to A flat is a half step. Now we have to make the distance between A flat and B only a whole step. So A flat, A, B flat, C, that's 4 keys, but we only need 3. So we have to bring the B flat down to B flat. So we have the B down to B flat, excuse me. A flat, A, and B flat. So there's our 3 adjacent keys for a whole step. Now we need a whole step between B flat and C, and that lines up already. B flat, B, C. Now we need a half step between C and D. C, D flat, D. So that's a whole step. So we have to bring D flat, D down to D flat to make it work for a half step. Now we need a whole step between D flat and E. So D flat, D, E flat, E, that's too far. That's 4 actual pitches. Well, we only need 3. So we need to bring the E down to E flat. So D flat, D, E flat. There's our whole step. And then E flat to F, E flat, E, F. There's our whole step. So now we have a minor scale built on F. This is our F minor scale, which sounds like this. Contrast that without the flats, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So you can hear that sounds different. So here's the F minor, F, G, A flat, B, C, D flat, E flat, and F. So those are the natural minor. Let's look at the comparison of melodic minor intervals and D, the natural minor, excuse me. So we have, for the natural, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Melodic minor is different. We have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So let's see how that works out. Okay, here's a melodic minor scale. I'll play that for you. You have E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, D natural, C, B, A, G, F sharp, and E. So that's a different sounding scale, which is actually a mixture of E major and E minor, the natural minor. So let's see how that's put together. Okay, we're going to borrow from the E major scale the C sharp and the D sharp going up. That's a key thing. The ascending, okay, scale, and then we need to lower it for descending. Let's kind of got those slides mixed up there. C sharp to D sharp when you're going up, and D natural and C natural when you're going down, descending. That's what makes the melodic minor scale unique in its sound. Okay. So let's build an E natural minor scale. So we have E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, E. Now we're going to make it a melodic minor scale. Okay. So we need to go E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So let's put that together. So E to F sharp is a whole step, so that works. F sharp to G, there's our half step. G to A is a whole step. A to B is a whole step. B to C is only a half step, so we've got to make it a C sharp. Okay. And C sharp to D is only a half step, and we need that to be a whole step. So we need to make it D sharp. And then D sharp to E is our half step. Now E to D is a whole step, so that's why we have to go back to D natural. And then D to C is a whole step, so we need the C natural. So remember, the naturals cancel out the accidental that was just before it. And the rest of it is just the natural minor scale. So again, ascending, you want to use C sharp and D sharp. And descending, you want to use the D natural and C natural. Now, depending on what key you're starting, remember you're going to raise 6 and 7 going up and then lower 6 and 7 coming down. So there's where you want to adjust those. So it's a natural, or it's a melodic minor going up. It's a natural minor coming down. So there's your melodic minor. Let's do that again. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, D natural, C, B, A, G, F sharp, and E. Let's discuss the harmonic minor. It looks a lot like the natural minor, but there are some key differences. So let's build this one again. From D to E, whole step. E to F, our half step. F to G is our whole step. G to A is our whole step. A to B is a whole step. And remember, we have to make it a half step. So there's our B flat. Now we have a new interval, an augmented second. So the C actually has to be farther away. So there's where we need to have actually 4 keys. B to B, B flat to B, B to C, C to C sharp. Okay, that's our augmented. Augmented means it's been enlarged. The distance has been pushed farther apart. Okay, and then we're going to end with a half step, C sharp to D, and it's already C sharp, which is borrowed from major. There's our major scale. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And Now we're going to use that C sharp from the major in our harmonic minor, which gives it a very unique sound. So now we have D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C sharp, D. Much more exotic sound. So there's our 3 minor scales. Use your handout to be your visual guide to see all of these things without your brain having to just picture them. And that should be a good tool to keep with you all the time. So we had our natural, melodic, and harmonic minor scales. These are your worksheets for your natural minor scale. The answers are there at number 1. So you have whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Melodic minor, I gave the intervals there. And the harmonic, the intervals are there. So you want to copy those intervals down the sheet and then add in your accidentals. So there's your introduction to the minor scales. The next lesson, 38, we'll talk about chords and arpeggios.